G'day guys, it's Nick Wienholt for SSW TV. Today I'm going to be drilling into how to diagnose a performance problem in production. What we're going to be using is Application Insights and the SQL Server Query Store. We've enabled this for one of our internal applications called SSW Time Pro. SSW Time Pro is a time sheeting and invoicing system that's used by our staff and account managers, both to submit timesheets and then to generate the invoices based on that. We noticed this week that our timesheet submission had become really slow. So each day's timesheet was taking 30 to 40 seconds to create. This was causing a lot of dissatisfaction with the application internally. So we wanted to jump into Application Insights to work out what had gone wrong and how to fix that. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up my Azure portal, and then I'm going to bring up Application Insights. To do that, I'll go down to the monitor icon, click down to Advanced, and there I can see my Application Insights. I know this application is SSW Time Pro, so let's filter based on that. So by default, that time range will be the last 24 hours. Let's just jump in there and change that to the last 7 days, which is what's of interest to us. I'll click Update on that. I can see here that there's a really high number of requests that are taking way too long. So let's look at these requests that are taking over 7 seconds. And I want to see the requests that are even longer than that. So I'll modify my Filters tab. And I'll go in here and select everything. So the 15 to 30 second time bucket, the 30 second to 1 minute time bucket, and let's just update that. So what this will show me is all the requests we've got in the last week that are taking over 7 seconds. To summarize that, I can just go to the request name filter. I can see here I've got 3 methods. So I've got a post on the get TFS sub change history. I know this is an Ajax call that is rendered asynchronously, so I don't really care about this. But this one really worries me. Post timesheet create. I've got 129 instances of this, and they're all taking over 7 seconds. So let's just update our filter based on that. That really aligns with the error message we've been receiving from users. So let's go down and look at a few of these. See here, 20th of March, this user was trying to submit their timesheet, and that timesheet submission took around 30 seconds, way too long. So we'll click on that particular event, and that's just coming up now. We can see here, call to remote dependencies. They're nearly all SQL Server calls. I know this is our internal SQL Server instance, and I had a really long gap here where either SQL Server was taking really long to process a request or something was happening internally in the application. What I'll do now is actually jump over to SQL Server. SQL Server 2016 has got this great feature called Query Store. What Query Store allows me to do, it's like Query Profiler, always on. So I can go to my top resource consuming queries. Let's configure that to look at the queries for the last week. And let's look at that by total duration. What I like to do here is look at queries that have executed a lot of times and also are taking a lot of time to execute. So let's look at this first one here. This query ID has been executed a lot of times. So that's all right that its total duration is very high. Let's go to the second one, query ID 105. This has been executed only 172 times, but is our second most time intensive query. So this to me looks like a problematic query. So let's click on that. I can also see in this tab here that SQL Server has tried a number of plans. So SQL Server recognises this has been going really slow and has moved from this plan ID 106, where it was doing a non-clustered index seek and then an RID lookup, which is just a bookmark lookup, and it's actually gone back to a table scan. So we can see that SQL Server is really struggling on this query. So let's go to the average duration for that query. We can see here that we've got a lot of queries that are very slow. We'll put in some TFS tasks to try and optimize these, but we really want to get down to query 105, which is just here, and look at its average execution time. We can see here, it's taking about 16 seconds to execute, which is way too long. So let's go in, and what we did here is track this query, click on track selected query, which will actually bring that up. We can see the number of executions over the last week. And what we can actually do in here is go in and view that query. So work out what's happening here. We can see that this is querying the emp time table, and it's looking it up by client ID. This is looking really suspicious to me. It's looking, the number of executions we actually had really matches up with what we're seeing in App Insights, and it's a really slow performing query. This is quite an iterative process where you might need to look at a number of problem areas before you actually drill in, but this is looking really suspect to me. The next action I'm going to take is actually to bring up the application here in Visual Studio and create an Application Insights trace log in application. So if I drill through this is one that I've just created. I can see here my time's going along really great, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. And then suddenly I'm down here, the next time I execute a query, it is, I need to start that again, cut. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually dive into Visual Studio, start the debugger, and get an Application Insights debug session here. So what I've got here, I've just filtered by the ADA.NET queries. Let's have a look at these. They're all going really quick, 5, 6 seconds, a few milliseconds. And I can see this huge gap here between 6 seconds and 40 seconds. So this is taking a really long time to execute, it looks to me. So let's look at this query here, which kicked off at 6:07 seconds. I'll go to the historical debugging view. And what that'll actually do is bring me up this ADO execute reader in my watch window. I can then go in and have a look at the command text that was executed here. Suspiciously, this is exactly the same query that I've seen from my query store. So I know the problem, I've come to the problem here from both sides, and I can see that I've probably nailed the actual problem. So execution of this query is really slow, adding an index won't help, so I need to work out why this actual query is being executed. I can see here the historical call stack. So I can see here some calls to the this FixUp client method. This FixUp client method is generated by the Entity Framework, and what it's trying to do is, if I've changed the client, it's trying to work out if it's already contained in this collection. So that's a really obvious sign to me that we might be going back to the SQL Server here. What I need to do is work out why this FixUp client call is being executed, whether it's a call that needs to be executed. What we actually found is this call was redundant. What we did is remove that entirely, and that totally cleared our performance problem. So we backtracked to here, we looked at some of the recent changes we've made to this repo, we identified a suspect change, rolled that back, and our performance problem was gone. So all in all, with Application Insights, Query Store, and the Visual Studio Debugger, in a number of hours we could drill down to a performance problem in production that in the old days would be really hard to diagnose. Hopefully that was really helpful, guys. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get more videos like this. I'm Nick Wienholt for SSW TV. See you next time.